This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on my Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch channels with Christoph Consty, Ukrainian singer-songwriter. And we're going to talk about his latest single, and we're going to talk, actually play for the YouTube audio of his latest song, One Shot. But we're glad to welcome you to the show.
Oh, welcome, Phantom. I'm very excited to be here today, and I'm really thankful for you to let me be featured on your podcast.
Well, we love to give indie artists a place to be heard, because we found that there are a lot of people that were interviewing people, but they weren't doing like what we like to do, a free form up to hour-long video interviews, kind of like Behind the Music. If you've ever seen that, like MTV, VH1, the idea is to give an artist, a singer-songwriter, an independent singer-songwriter, a voice and a place to talk about their work, and in a kind of no pressure situation where they're often like in their own home studio, or we're talking to them in a way they're comfortable. So thank you for being on the program. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to go into your video. So I'm going to cue that up, and you can see One Shot is getting ready to go, and then we're going to totally go into it. So I'll put you on mute, and then we're going to listen to your latest single, which is on Spotify, it's on YouTube, and we'll have the links on it. But here we go. We're going to get into that right now.
Give me one shot and I blow it all up. No matter what it costs, I must live my life. Just give me one shot and I show what I will. Bullets flying around in the fight. Team honesty and up. Give me one shot. No, I can't stop. I said all in and I'm good luck is all I can trust. And give me one shot. There's no way back I got unless my life is under the upper hand. And this is my one shot. My heart is shaking, trying to run my own big hit. There's no opportunity to get my heart into this shit. I'm a Hungarian boy with a big dream in my pocket. Wanna entertain the whole world just like nobody ever did. I can't recall what was the reason I started this phone. Am I just another new one pretending as if we were born to be the next big bomb of the 21st century? Or am I the real one focusing on the victory? I'm 24 years old, I'm a man of anxiety, but it comes from the situation I'm stuck in, I can be free. All I ever wanted was to give you a part of me. That's exactly what I'm doing when I'm singing this melody. Give me one shot and I blow it all up. No matter what it goes, I must need my life. Just give me one shot and I show what I've got. Bullets flying around in the fight, team honesty up. Give me one shot. No, I can't stop. I said all in and I'm a good luck is all I can trust. And give me one shot. There's no way back, regardless. My life is under the upper hand, and this is my one shot. Lights are blinking is the sign for me to start. Curtains go up, no makeup, standing in front of the crowd. I'm not the one to go to get some money and calls it done. That's someone who only cares about if he had enough fun. Cause my life wasn't that bad, I've never had money problems. At school I was one of the best. I still got most of my friends. I learned that from girls who really deserved it. I don't want to be brand new, but only if I am buffy. Maybe I should use this possibility as a remedy. Let my fantasy be free while I'm singing this melody. My face the only thing I trust in my understanding that I must be the face of inequality of the distance. Give me one shot and I blow it all up. No matter what it goes, I must need my life. Just give me one shot and I show what I've got. Bullets flying around in the fight, team honesty up. Give me one shot. No, I can't stop. I said all in and I'm a good luck is all I can trust. And give me one shot. There's no way back, regardless. My life is under the upper hand, and this is my one shot. Now that you know me, let me tell you some more words. Let me tell you to a freaking belly I wanna be heard. I'm pretty sure I need no less than a miracle with making people listen to my music in the whole world. Don't get me wrong, that's not a song that's been written in need. I wanna sing everything right out from my soul, and I mean it when I say it. One day it won't be just a child's dream. I'm gonna have for people who have seen the goddamn worst things. One day you always see a man come from a small town. Failure wasn't an option for him, he's become a pop star. No, I'm not a clown, and when you see me wearing crown, you remember back I was that man who asked for that damn shot. One shot and I blow it all up. No matter what it goes, I must need my life. Just give me one shot and I show what I've got. Bullets flying around in a fight, team honesty up. Give me one shot. No, I can't stop. I said all in and I'm like, good luck is all I can trust. And give me one shot. There's no way back, regardless. My life is under the upper hand, and this is my one shot.
So that was Christoph Consty and One Shot, and we'll be back right here again. So that's a pretty cool. I mean, I like that song because it's got like an American pop vibe. It kind of reminds me of Justin Bieber. It reminds me of some other like '90s type of pop stars. And it's got like a 2000s feel too, but it's got the 2000s, late '90s. So is that what you were going for?
Yeah, actually, I love American music, like in the pop industry. So this is why I started writing in English because I want to reach out to as much
Mhm.
people as I can. And I'm actually from Hungary, not from Ukraine.
Oh, sorry,
And
sorry about that.
no problem, no problem. And well, Hungarian is a beautiful language, but just not that many people speak it. And I want to be able to talk to a bigger crowd through my music because actually this is why I started everything. And well, One Shot, as you could hear the lyrics, it's all about me, why I started, who I am, what my goals are, what I want to achieve with my music, and it's a very important song for me. I
Hmm.
wrote it in 2019, and I started it actually. Wrote the first two lines in October, and then I just dropped it because I was like, "Oh man, no, this won't work. You can't write the lyrics like that." And then in December, something inspired me. I don't know, I don't remember what exactly, but then I was like, I just started writing, and it was like an hour to put together the whole lyrics. It was just when you get uh, a muse and
Yeah, yeah.
and
The
you
muse
just
is kind of
like,
like you never. But sometimes I think as singer songwriters, we can be our own worst critic. You know, a lot of times, like when I've talked to singer songwriters, and I'm a writer myself, I'll do something, and then I'll say well, like I'll have second thoughts about it, and then I'll like put it on the shelf, and then it's like I'm not ready in my head to like
yeah,
release it. But then later I might like go back and look at it and I said, well, you know what? I don't know why I had any hesitation. And now I feel good about it. And then you put it up, you know?
yeah, that happens to me very often actually too. Yeah, I think that's very true what you said, that we are our own critics.
Yeah, I think
So
it's just if you're a writer, like you're going to be kind of self judging and then you're kind of critical, especially when you're a singer songwriter. You're not, you're kind of doing everything yourself. And, you're not sure because like if when you're in a band and you've got like a band situation, you got other people to bounce stuff off, and they can kind of rest the band and say, "Hey, that's working, or that's not working." But then when you're by a singer songwriter kind of self, one person operation, then you've got more responsibility, and then you got to like think about it in a deeper way. And then you bounce it off your friends or bounce it off other people or put it on some SoundCloud and see how it works. And does people do they hit it? Do they understand it? It's interesting. But let me get into the questions. So what we usually ask every artist we talk to is like when did you first get into music? Like what age?
well, I think I was 7 or 6 or something like this, but not into pop. I started playing the trumpet when I was 7,
Yeah, I saw that.
and
So you went to school for that too.
yeah, uh, I don't know how it works in America or in other lands, but in Hungary we have a lot of music schools,
Mm-hmm.
like for little children, and where they can actually learn music on like the basics.
Mm-hmm.
We have secondary schools too for like musicians who want to be
Professional.
uh, professionals already. So from the age of 14, most of the musicians Hungary have, they already started taking it seriously. And then we have, of course, colleges for music. And well, in my case, it was I swam when I was younger, and I played the trumpet, but the most priority had learning. Like I
You
wanted
just do
to
regular
become,
studies.
yeah, like I wanted to become a doctor actually until
Oh
I
wow!
was
So you're going
17.
on that track to be a doctor. That's a heavy track.
Yeah. And then when I was 17, I played a concert with the trumpet uh, in an award ceremony or some kind of thing like that.
Hmm.
And they clapped me back, and there I saw the faces of the people and the effect music had on them, music, what I played had
Hmm.
on them. And it just made me feel like considering I started considering that maybe I should uh, rethink it and
Rethinking, because yeah.
yeah, and not push it. If like I felt in my soul that I wanted to learn music and have this effect on people, like giving them this kind of happiness. And yeah, when I was 18, I changed my secondary school to a musical, like to a music school, music
Okay, like
section.
I think at Berkeley, like in the U.S., is like Berkeley is like the big music school, but so I
Um,
would imagine it's kind of like that, maybe.
yeah, Berkeley is college, isn't it?
Yeah, Berkeley. There's like Berkeley College of Music. That's very,
Yeah,
very specific. It teaches
yeah,
you like all the different forms and stuff. That I mean, I didn't
yeah.
go there. I wanted to go there.
Well, I didn't change to this kind of college in that moment when I was 18. I started studying in a secondary school, but it was like only for music or for
Mhm.
musicians who want, for people who want to become professional
Yeah,
musicians.
yeah. That's kind of like what
And
Berkeley is.
yeah, and but then after that, I did an audience to the State University of Music and Performing Arts in Stuttgart,
Hmm.
and that was the college
That
where
was
I
the
went.
where you went. So that
Yeah,
teaches like music theory, production techniques and everything. Like learn how to use a DAW and learn how to compose.
yeah.
Do the business aspects. I guess they teach now too. But from there, you transitioned from the trumpet to more like full production, like a producer level singer songwriter. So when you moved from the trumpet, did you move on to like MIDI keyboards or synthesizers or guitars? I mean, what doing to be a pop star? Did you suddenly transfer to different instruments, or are you doing it all through the DAW?
Um, Actually, when I was 15, I had a band which
Hmm.
we founded with three friends of mine. It was a rock band, um, and there I started writing songs already, but then I just put it on pause. Say it like that. Um, that's not true. I wrote a lot of songs to my girlfriends too, but they were not much.
But did you
So,
shift to like guitar and piano when you went to the rock band?
yeah, and when rock was a very big love of mine,
Hmm.
when I was like 14
Hmm.
until I was 18, actually, it had a very big influence on me. And yeah, I love the guitar, so I started learning it uh, by myself from YouTube videos and so on.
Did you find that guitar is a better writing instrument for pop music than a trumpet?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did actually.
yeah.
and 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 beside trumpet, I had to learn and then later study piano too, so I played
Hmm.
piano too.
Yeah, I think
And
the major writing instruments are like piano and guitar. Like if you're gonna be a singer songwriter, like piano or guitar, if you can do both. Piano, like me, I'm a keyboardist, so I can kind of do everything from that. But
yeah,
yeah, I think it just I think if you're gonna write a song that's gonna affect people, it seems like guitar and piano are the two instruments that really let you zone, focus on crafting
yeah,
a song,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, and actually, with production and with like producer things, I started last year, so it wasn't that fast for me. I was afraid, when I'm quite honest. I was afraid that
Although, Yeah,
that's
it's
too difficult for me, and so on. And then when Corona kicked in, I felt like, okay, Christoph, it's time for you to do something new because you have too
well,
much
it's kind
time.
of like it's the do it yourself situation is kind of necessity. I didn't necessarily want to be a producer. I was in bands when I was 17.
Hmm.
Everybody stopped showing up. People got married, did whatever they're gonna do, and I still wanted to write music. So I suddenly got like a Fostex recorder. I got sequencers. I started building, getting tons of synths, and then I said, well, how am I gonna put these together? And I started like looking into things, and it's like, and I read all these documentaries, and I was like, okay, I watched them and stuff, and I said, well, I got to get a mixer. I got to get some different types of effect systems and processors and all kinds of stuff. And so over 20 years, I just kind of figured out how to be a producer by just doing it. And because like I wanted to make my own music, kind of, so I kind of fell into it. And this was all before DAWs. I was using a lot of machines. Like I still use a lot of 24 track hardware recorders. Even though I
Hmm.
have access to DAWs, I kind of like the old school way of using like a hardware recorder because I
Hmm.
like the idea of just recording right at the instrument. And then
Hmm.
later I'll go bring it into something. But a lot of my stuff is all done on hardware, like recorders, like Tascam 24s and Zoom R24s and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
I understand why people get into DAWs because you can, digital audio workstation, you can really do what you want. So when you start learning production, what's your digital audio workstation of choice? What you use, Logic or
I use Ableton,
Ableton? Okay.
Ableton Live 10, and actually I started using it as I said last year. It was 1 year ago actually now somewhere,
How did you
and
find that you were intimidated by it? You said you were kind of intimidated. Were you just like the choices or the technical nature of it? What was intimidating about it?
um, as I said, I had too much time and I had a lot of songs, so I felt like, okay, it's time to start recording myself, learning how to record myself, how to produce. Actually, at the beginning, I just wanted to be able to record it,
Hmm.
what I sing, what I play on the guitar, so I could send it to a producer. And
Hmm.
then I started watching videos about EQing, compressoring, like using a compressor
Hmm.
and every other audio effect that we have
Yeah.
in a
So then you
DAW.
started getting interested in
Yeah,
it.
a lot. Yeah, like exactly. It was like, oh my god, this is a wonder world.
Well, you think about
And
it like if you think about the past, right? Musicians had to go to a studio to actually get something done. And now,
yeah,
if you've got a computer, if you got a Mac, if you get an audio interface, if you buy some synthesizers, you buy a guitar, right, that you can actually not have to book studio time and actually get your demo to a level that you never could have done before. You're talking
yeah,
about in the 70s, even the 80s, it was very difficult until they get to the 90s and you get the first like Pro Tools and stuff to actually get studio level sound from home. It was very
yeah,
difficult. And now a lot of people can actually produce very high quality stuff that you never could have done before.
yeah, exactly. And actually, this is something that changed the whole industry, I think,
Yeah.
because it's like everybody has access to these things, everybody can have them, and then you can learn them. I take part in a course, like a producer course, made
Hmm.
by Il Factor,
Okay.
the Beat Academy, and he has 15 years of experience with production in music
Yeah.
industry. He worked with very big artists, and and he tells us all the time that it's amazing that when he started learning how to produce music, it was uh, s- more difficult than it is right now. Like
Yeah, I mean they're like
we
the
had to do the
gatekeepers.
same thing. Yeah, exactly. What you just said, it was just quite another game.
Yeah, it's hard to get to a board. You know, in order to get to those boards, you had to get past the gatekeepers. You know, you got to get to Olympia Studios or Electric Lady. You got to go to, Sound City. They had these, famous studios, and if you couldn't get on a Neve board, or you couldn't get on one of these really awesome analog boards, like you couldn't really, if you can't go to Berkeley and take, recording engineering, to become a recording engineer class or become a music director, right? You didn't have access to the stuff. So the only way you had access if you're like in a rock band and then you've got your guy running your mixing council, and then you kind of like, okay, well, I'm starting to kind of learn it from gigs. And then you're like, okay, I go to a pawn shop and I find one of these. And then you start going in the garage and recording your band, like at punk bands. I think a lot of punk bands, I was into like labels back in the day, like SST and IRS. We had bands like Huskadoo and the Replacements and Buzzcocks and all these like lo-fi bands, kind of like the stuff that was on Sub Pop, like with Nirvana. Right? They didn't just say, hey, we can be lo-fi, right? We can use some of this old equipment and we can just put stuff together. And I kind of came from out of that. I was like into punk bands. A lot of my early bands were like Clash, like Joy Division type of sound, or New Order type of sound, early New Order. So it's like this kind of post-punk thing where we're kind of, then we started to bring keyboards into it. Because like, so I had like bands like Joy Division and New Order and Depeche Mode, even today, like Magua and stuff like that. And I just was very entranced, like, okay, well, I can just do it yourself, right? And this is before the DAW. We would just go get Tascams and Fostex recorders and, hardware sequencers. And have hardware sequencers triggering LFOs, triggering things, triggering other things, triggering this, using clocks. And that's kind of like my world is still a lot of analog clocks triggering things. Because that's kind of like I like to do it because I think it has a different sound. But I totally get that the fact that production is intimidating. Because, even if you get really good, there's always some recording engineer that's probably better than you. But so there's always somebody that could take your sound, and even you see this with big professional bands. Like they can have one producer and one set of recording engineers. They do the record, and then they say, that's not cutting it. They give it to another recording engineer, and then suddenly we change the whole thing. And so it's like it is an art into itself. But, in today's world where you can't get to the studio and you don't have the money to get to the studio, if you have Ableton or Pro Tools or any of these, Logic, you can do a lot of work and you can get it to a point where it's like, it's hard to really push, like, well, how much better could it get? In some cases, like if you're really dedicated. And I think the other thing about it, and you can tell me, is like when you control that much of how your music is being done, then your vision is closer to what you want.
Yeah.
You want it to be, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was my first problem, actually. Like, this is why I pushed myself to use the AW. Because I was like, okay, I have songs out there. They are not what I want. Like, they don't sound
The way you
as
want.
good as I want them. I don't feel like they have any special things in them. So I push myself to be able to create something. I'm still searching for what my style should be, actually. So
Trying to build your sound. Like I think everybody,
exactly.
that's probably one thing I'd ask you. Like, so in terms of your influences and your reference points, like who do you listen to that inspires like how you write music? Can you kind of name check some of the people that you kind of look up to in music, and not that you want to clone them, but you're
I love it.
inspired by them?
Yeah, like okay, my biggest influencer was when I was 10 was the Queen with their game changing sound. designs, and with everything they did to the music industry, like what they brought classical music to
Yeah.
pop music. And this is,
Yeah.
every
8-minute
time I
songs.
listen to Queen, it's like when you can it doesn't matter if you're someone who never learned music or you're a professional musician, you
Mhm.
will say that, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yeah, it's like the
Because
art rock. It's kind of like what the Who did, right? The Who were into rock opera. They
yeah,
created Tommy and Quadrophenia, but Queen took it because Freddie Mercury is like a Bowie. You know, he's got this larger than life character
yeah,
and he got this larger than life voice. And then when you saw him on stage, like during Bohemian Rhapsody, if you have
yeah,
look at his look during Bohemian Rhapsody, it's like very theatrical. It's very Bowie. You know, it's kind of like
yeah,
Ziggy. But then he's like got this operatic voice and he's got this kind of theatrical character. So when you listen to Bohemian Rhapsody and you see him on stage, you're like, wow, you're just totally drawn into the fact that he's got this hyper character,
yeah,
like an actor. And I think that's what some people don't get. Like in music, that kind of Bowie theatrics that you get from a Freddie Mercury, you get from a Prince, you get from a Lady Gaga. That there's a place in music for theatrical capability, right? That Freddie was like the king of that, queen of that. You know, it's just he just had this unbelievable stage presence. That's
yeah,
like it's like it's Elvis on steroids. It's just way beyond.
yeah, yeah. This is exactly what I feel about Queen and Freddie Mercury too. Then the second one, who had a very big effect on my music taste, was Michael Jackson. But
Mhm.
shame on me, as I said, I listened to rock music
Yeah.
until I was 13. So I knew who Michael Jackson was, that he was the
Hmm.
king of pop, but I frankly didn't know almost any songs of him. And
Hmm.
then when he died,
They
I
went
felt
back.
like, okay, let's check it. Why was he so big?
Hmm.
And then he just drew me in,
Well,
like,
it was interesting with Michael is I grew up in the 70s, so I knew him as a kid in the Jackson 5.
yeah,
And the Jackson 5 was like the king of all like boy bands, you know. And it was like the thing was, it's like they had so much talent. They had this Motown sound, right? They had all these
Mhm.
Motown songwriters who were
Yeah,
writing them like hits, right? And then they're playing them, right? So they're actually playing instruments. And then Michael's voice as a kid is like unbelievable, right? And
yeah,
then you're like, so the early Jackson 5 stuff, to me, that's what I heard from Michael first. And
yeah,
then when he did like Off the Wall, that was like, man, he totally changed because there was a big thing when his voice changed that people thought, well, he's
yeah,
all done, right? A lot of people in the industry thought he was done. They say, well, he's just a child star. He's never gonna make it cross over.
yeah,
And
yeah,
child
yeah,
stars usually don't cross over. And then suddenly, the thing about Michael was like he was a big child star, super big, and then suddenly he became in his like teens and 20s a star again, you know.
yeah.
And then he,
So,
was off the wall, and then Thriller just put it through the stratosphere. You know, he's like so he had like three phases, and it's like wow, it's like that usually doesn't happen. Maybe the Beatles had multiple phases, but yeah, that's kind of
yeah,
rare.
yeah. So whenever I listen to his music lately, I try to listen to modern music like Ed Sheeran, Shawn Mendes, Billie
Mm,
Eilish, because of the
mm,
sound design. How to
yeah,
imagine for myself what I want to create, because like only from the producer perspective. But
yeah, it's a good idea.
then let's say I sat in the car and I listened to a retro radio, and he bed was on the play,
Hmm.
and it was like, oh my god, this
There's some
man.
really cool synthesizer stuff in there. I mean, the cool thing about Michael,
Yeah,
he's got funk, he's got really interesting synthesizer programming. There actually was like a very unique synthesizer that was used on the beginning of Bad. It's like a
yeah,
really rare synth. It's actually hard to find. and it's actually a preset that's on that synth. And in the beginning of that song is running that preset. But the thing is, like, that preset is hard to find on other synths. People tend to sample it because they can't get it. I think it was like a synclaver, but it's like there's some, because I'm a synthesist. So one thing I'm into is like I'm into like synthesizer history, like early Moogs, ARP 2600s, Prophets, Oberheims, old Korgs, all kinds of unique modular synths, because I find that synthesizers have character like guitars. Like you could pick up a 55 Les Paul or a Telecaster or a Rickenbacker. Guitars have character, but like if you go look into Moogs, right? You look at mini Moogs from 72 and mini Moog from 77, they don't sound the same, right? And so I'm like a Hammond B3, like Yamaha pianos and stuff. I'm into actual hardware synths and hardware like instruments when it comes to like keyboards and stuff, because they have character, and I like to use that character in my music. Now it's expensive to do that, and not everybody gets to do that, but like part of what I like to do is actually deal with the hardware, just because I think it has a different sound than what the software has. But so how I got into it was always on hardware, physical synthesizers. But
yeah. And other influencers, as I said already, are for me Ed Sheeran.
Oh yeah, I can hear that. I can hear that in what you're doing. I was trying to think of the people that I hear in your voice. I do hear that. Yeah, and I hear some like Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake.
Yeah. Because you kind of got this kind of male pop, super pop kind of. It kind of what you're going for.
Tells me this all the time, actually.
Well, it's not a bad place to be, because that is like a staple in American pop music. It's like that it kind of goes back to Elvis. This idea of the American pop star, and it's a certain feel. And it's interesting because they always kind of pull from R&B and hip hop, but then they're kind of like an Elvis. Or they're like a Buddy Holly. You always have like this, like, guy who ends up getting to be like the king of pop, like in a different way. Like the way Michael was, you get Justin trying to do the same thing. You get, people trying to do that. But yeah, I think it's a cool place to aspire to be, that kind of pop zone. Because it's a different thing. It's like I'm more of an experimental musician. So I'm kind of into like progressive jazz and bands like Yes and Genesis and ELO, and yeah, it's a different type of space. But I understand, like even bands like that want to make a pop song. Once in a while, you get a band like Yes or Genesis, they'll have a pop song, even though they have songs that are like 10 minutes long. Like Queen will have 8-minute long songs, and then they'll have the 3-minute song, right? So it's like everybody aspires to try to get that hit.
I have a better example. Like, do you know the band Five Finger Death Punch?
Oh yeah, I know them. Yeah,
and they have a pop song too, because it's just something that everybody needs to have.
Well, everybody aspires to it. It's like the Beatles. I mean, to me, the pop music is kind of born from the Beatles, right? The idea that you can use the studio, and then, I think this is the thing about it. If you think about like George Martin, right? There was this famous statement. I watched a documentary with George Martin. He said, I could have recorded the Beatles like they played in Berlin, right? And we did for a while. And then we decided, we're going to use the studio like a painter uses the canvas. So I don't necessarily want to replicate the reality of the Beatles playing in Berlin. I want them to actually be like Monet. So I'm going to create a sound painting, right? So the idea of using the studio for effects and backward tape loops and all kinds of like layering kind of came out of George Martin had actually worked on Peter Sellers' comic albums, like comedy records. And on these comedy records, they had multi-track recordings with orchestras, sound effects, backward tape loops, all kinds of stuff. And it was interesting. The Beatles actually liked George Martin's work on these comedy records. And so when they
Mm-hmm.
came to Sergeant Pepper's, they said, well, why don't we take some of those techniques that you did on the comedy records
Mm-hmm.
and do it for music and create like these soundscapes, these sound paintings with all this layering and backward tape loops and all these ideas are not normal pop music. And now these are all techniques that people can do in a DAW, and
Yeah.
you can build all this stuff, and it kind of comes out of this idea that you can make a band sound like something they couldn't sound like live. Like if you just
Yeah.
go out with your acoustic guitar, you can't sound like you do after you go through the DAW unless you run it as a backing track, you know.
Yeah.
but it's the idea that you can sound more than what reality is. You know, you can build all this stuff, shadowed
Yeah.
vocals and all kinds of layers, multiple vocal layers that allow you to make your studio song different than what you could actually sing. You know, your live performance may not ever match exactly the studio, but it's a different thing, right? You're going for a different thing when you do that studio record versus playing live, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I totally agree. I think this is why electronical instrument got such a big place in the music industry right now because, as you said, acoustic instruments. Well, we're trying to reproduce them, like remake them how they sound live when we're recording them, but we just it's very difficult and we can't when we are quite honest because it
Mm-hmm.
sounds quite different live. But if it's an electrical instrument like a synthesizer or anything like that, any sound of a synthesizer, then it feels like it's live because it's live in the
Mm-hmm.
song. Because it's not a live instrument, it's an instrument that's made for music production. And this is why I'm I just started diving into this part of music production. Actually, I'm I'm quite like a beginner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
This-
you can go down
but
the rabbit hole. When you get into
yeah,
synthesizers, like I'm into analog, digital sampling synthesizers. So I've got like old school analog Moogs and
yeah,
Prophets and Rolands, and then I've got modern granular synthesis and wave file synthesizers, and different types of technology. You got FM like DX7 type synthesizers. You've got like D50 linear synthesizers, subtractive synthesis synthesizers, Buchla additive synthesis. So I'm totally into all types of synthesis, and I create tones from scratch on my Moogs and stuff. I'll go from the waveform through the oscillator to the filter to the envelopes to all that, and it's kind of like where I live because to make my sound, I don't go buy it off the web. I kind of go into my synth and I build it.
yeah,
It's a different type of thing. It's kind of what we used to do. And it seems to be coming back. There's more and more people getting Euro racks, more and more people going and finding Moogs or finding Rolands or little Euro rack synths and building their own thing. Because what's cool is like then you get no copyright strikes against you. It's your own sound. It kind of helps you be distinguished from other bands, like because then you can really craft it. Now the cool thing is the DAWs have these things where you can actually do the same thing. You can go into the DAW and you can do sound design. You don't have to
yeah,
just take clips. You can actually build sounds. It's a little
yeah.
difficult,
Oh my
but
god.
yeah, is that what you're getting into now?
No, 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 no. This is one of my favorite thing actually right now. I just I reproduced Billie Eilish. She's a bad guy,
Hmm.
and the most interesting thing for me was to make this sound they had in the bass line.
Oh yeah, you're trying to get
And
that bass.
yeah, and actually there's a synthesizer in Ableton Live, and it's not the same as in the original because I hear it's not the same, but it's quite on the spot, like
In the
it's
zone.
pretty cool. And it's like I felt like, oh, that's really cool because I this was the actually the first time that I tried to create my own sound, like through a synthesizer, and
That's
it felt
cool.
so amazing that it's like,
It's
God, this
it's
is great.
addictive. I think it like
That's a,
if you get into it, it's very addictive. The problem with synthesizer designers, right, is you're gonna build you start to write a song, and then you spend 10 hours trying to get the tone. Yeah, I don't even get to the chords, right? I spent 10 hours just trying to get the tone, and then it's like so. Then my songwriting takes forever because I spent all my time trying to get the kick, trying to get the right tom, trying to get the right bass, trying to get the right like pad, and then it's like
yeah.
I spent all my time doing that, and it's like, well, then it's like four
I
minutes to do the song, but I spent 10 hours doing the tone.
I don't try to create kicks. I use samples for kicks, but still, it's like I started a challenge yesterday, and there's a like a to-do list, and one thing is to do is to create music 1 hour per day without getting distracted from anything.
Oh, so you're giving
Okay.
yourself like a practice time,
Yeah.
rehearsal time.
Now, the
Yeah,
thing
that's a
was
good thing to
yesterday
do.
that half an hour was just to make my bass,
Tone.
like
Yeah,
how I
that's the
wanted to
problem.
sound. And then
Yeah,
I was like, okay, I have to hurry
you got to hurry
in
for
an
the rest of
hour.
it.
Yeah.
That's why I heard a band one time. There was this band from Colorado called Tennis, right? And they got a guitar drummer, and he was saying he spends all his time trying to get the percussion right. Like, and when he builds a song, he said he'll spend like 2 months trying to get the percussion and the drum lines down, right? And he's a guitar player. And then he said, "Well, how much time do you spend on the guitar?" He's like, "Well, I probably spent like 2 hours on the guitar lick, and I spent like 2 months on the drums." And so the thing is that he's a really good guitar player, and maybe you think it would be the opposite. That he would spend more time on the guitar part, but I guess he feels so comfortable with the guitar that it just comes natural. And once he's got the drum down, then he doesn't worry about it, and he kind of just goes with whatever the muse gives him. So he's kind of wondering, like, when you write a song, does it take you a lot of time to kind of get the feel? Do you kind of have a situation where I've talked to bands that say, you know what, the first or second or third take of this song is really what it is? Or do you end up taking like multiple takes? It takes a long time to kind of figure out what you want.
Um, at the beginning, like 1 year ago, I started making takes like continuously, and it almost always ended up like being bad. And nowadays, I try to concentrate to like warm up my voice, and then start singing, and yeah, it usually still takes like 3 takes at least,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find what
because
happens, like if you go with like the 10th or 20th take, then it doesn't even sound like what you're trying to do. Like
yeah,
a lot of times, like if you have a band, right, and they just keep on going at it and they do 100 takes, you go back and the third or fourth take, maybe even the first, actually is the best one. And the problem is like it might have mistakes in it, right? And the thing I always tell people is like if you go back in music history, a lot of classic records actually have mistakes in them, right? And
yes,
people
that's right.
were willing to say, you know what? It ended up being that version is so honest, that version is so good that even if we've got the error, it's actually better than what we did before after. And they
Yeah,
kind of live with it, and they kind of accepted it. And I think that's where one the thing as a producer, that's the thing you have to kind of learn over time, that you trust your intuition, that sometimes like a vocal might not be the best quality, but the performance is so good that you use that version, you know, because that version is going to be the best version for you.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think I got to
So
check
I
my brain.
I heard a rumor about Eminem and
Hmm.
how he records, like how many takes he does, and I heard something like 50 or 60 sometimes.
Yeah, it's a little too
People
much.
want to do his best, and he's
I just
like, he
want
doesn't stop. He won't stop. He
well,
just go keep on going, and then it takes
just,
him
just
like
just
50
keep
seconds
on
to
with
get.
that thought. I just have to check my battery for a second.
Oh, okay, okay. So yeah, this is something quite interesting, I think.
Okay. All right. I think I'm
Are you
good.
back?
Sorry about that.
No problem. Can you hear me?
My plug was not all the way in, and I didn't want our podcast to get cut off.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So, yeah.
I
So
think
it's
we're
just
getting kind of near the end of the podcast, but I think it's been really cool talking to you because you got
thank you.
an interesting perspective, and it's the interest. The cool thing about this podcast, I talked last week to an artist from Latvia.
Yeah.
I've talked to artists from like Sweden and Berlin. A lot of artists, it's not. I just live in the United States in a little place like in Concord, New Hampshire. Um, so it's really cool that we live in this world now
Yeah.
where a producer in New Hampshire, USA, can talk to somebody in Hungary, and then my audience gets to expose to your music. And then the other producers that I talk to, one of the cool thing that happens is like most of the people who are on the show are like, or listen to the show are musicians and producers. And so my audience is a whole collective of producers and musicians. And every time I talk to another person, they get introduced to that. And in some cases, we've had people collaborate based on, oh, they found somebody on my channel. They were
Hmm.
interested in what you were doing, and then they reach out to you. So
Yeah, that's
that's
pretty
I
good.
think that's the whole thing. You said you were in a collective anyway, right? You're in a group of other musicians and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, I am because I'm very open-minded for collaborating. I actually am trying to make a project with different artists from different genres too.
That's cool.
So, but probably for 2022. But
But
yeah,
I
so
am kind of putting this out there with everybody I talk to. One thing we want to do in the future is actually have like an online festival where every artist that we've talked to actually
mhm,
does a performance in a show. We call it like a Fam Electric Ghost Festival or something. And like everybody I've interviewed gets to actually perform like
mhm,
on this channel or something. So you do it from a stage or you do it from your home studio. Everybody does like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and we have like maybe a 2 hour show or a
mhm.
3 hour show with a bunch of bands. And we're thinking that, and I probably even play my stuff. But yeah, it's just the idea that because it's like a collective. Like what we have here is a music community,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're doing the video version. Yeah, it's kind of cool that we could think of actually proposing that. So if you're into that, it's something we're thinking of going into later this year or going into 2022 as well.
Yeah, that would be pretty nice, I have to say. I
Most musicians
really
want to
love
play if they
live
get a chance to
streaming.
play.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love live performances actually because I think it has a different kind of influence on the audience, on the public, and I really miss this actually.
Yeah, so I mean, have you not been able to perform because of the pandemic? That you're still kind of not. In some places, like in the world, are allowing artists to perform, but are you in Hungary? Are you is having an issue where you still can't do it?
Yeah. We have actually a very big issue with Corona right now, so
Yeah, we do
I don't
too.
see I don't see in the near future that we have.
Yeah, we're kind of in a bad situation because we got people that want to go to the bar and they want to go to the restaurant and they want to do this and they want to do that and they just keep on spreading it and then what happens is they let people go and then they lock it down and then
Yeah.
they say okay, we'll open it again. And my whole thing is, well, did you make sure everybody took the vaccine? Like, no. So why did you think that wasn't going to happen? It's kind of like you keep on doing the same thing, and then you wonder why you get the same result. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like if you don't, if people aren't vaccinated, they're probably going to still get it.
Yeah.
It's like it's not going to just magically go away. But so I'm hoping, like, I'm supposed to be vaccinated soon, so. But even then, the venues aren't going to be they're going to be like 25%, maybe 30% capacity. They're talking about. So then it's like, so online is still a place where I like to live. I do a lot of online from my home studio. It's something I've been doing since like 2016, before the pandemic. I always like to do online performances. So is that something that you're thinking of doing?
Yeah, this is actually something I was thinking of. I should have a live concert on the 14th of April, like
Cool.
live on Twitch. Live.
On Twitch, yeah, I do that. Twitch is a good place. I like Twitch because it lets you do a nice landscape.
Yeah.
They like, some platforms don't do very good landscape, not to name them. But Twitch actually has really good audio quality and very good picture, really good picture views in the camera. And then it's got a lot of good things about it. I do like that platform.
Yeah, me too. So, and actually this is what I was thinking of, that I'll do this more often from now on, because it's like I want to perform, but I can't do it live, so I have to do it from home.
Yeah, I mean, I actually invested in like multiple cameras, and so now I'm using like a Zoom Q8 right now, and I've got my iPhone, I got tripods, and the next thing I'm investing in is like this Roland mixer. There's a Roland makes multiple video mixers, and what's cool about them is if you start doing live performance, is they have this thing called like a round robin. So if you get like 3 cameras, the Roland mixer can automatically round robin through all the cameras while you're performing. And you can set when it's going to do it. And it will actually, so you could have a camera that's like zoomed in on you playing a guitar, right? You could have a camera that's zoomed in on a keyboard. You'd have like a wide shot, and then it will go and it will run all those different mixes live without you having to. If you're just one person, right, you don't have to have somebody doing it. It actually does it.
Yeah.
And so I was looking into that. I said, well, I need that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty amazing, actually.
Well, my budget for traveling, like I would spend money to get a U-Haul to go to New York, right? I would spend money to have roadies go help me bring my stuff to Boston. So since I can't do that, maybe I should invest in that, and then maybe be able to have a good enough show that I can ask people to donate and get, advertisers and stuff on it. So it's like you increase the quality of your live stream by having multiple cameras, by having a green screen, by like running like effects on the green screen. So if you invest in stuff like that and you think about it, like even when things are back to normal, those are good things to have, because then you could create videos, you could, engage your audience on YouTube. I think one of the things as a musician in this world, the way we're on all these streaming services, if you can engage an audience on YouTube or Twitch or Instagram and you do it regularly, you can build up your fan base. Yeah. And then you could sell them merch, you could sell them tickets, you can get them knowing what you're doing. And so it's not a bad idea to go that way.
No, absolutely not, actually. I was thinking of that too.
That's cool.
To make like live performances after post-corona too. Sometimes like live, I mean, like, you know what I mean by live. Not live, but
like you're doing a performance from your home studio, or you're doing something to engage your fans. Because like even if you like engage your fans by say, hey, I'm gonna cook today and make some cookies, right? And so then they get to see you like a human being, right? And they see you making cookies, right? Or they see you like writing poetry, right? So it's like, oh, this episode, I'm not even going to get into music. I'm just going to read my lyrics like a poem. right?
Yeah.
You just do different things to engage your audience, and then that makes you more real. And then
Yeah.
you'll tend to get a following of people who say, "Oh, this guy's cool. He's doing different stuff," you know.
Yeah. Even though I don't want my audience to learn my bad recipes.
Yeah, yeah. The cooking's not the best example, you know. You could have other things you want to do, but like if you're into skateboarding, it's like watch me fall down on my skateboard.
Yeah. Well, tricks I
Prepare to
couldn't
do a
show,
BMX
but
trick.
I can show tricks, but I can fall very nicely.
Yeah, I could do that for you. I could do a little Chevy Chase, do the fall, pratfall, you know.
Maybe I could go viral, actually.
But you know, you got to make that TikTok video with some weird effect of some nonsensical thing, right? So you make some, you take your studio effects, right? You make some thing that doesn't even make any sense. Half of the stuff, that's what it is. It's like, so you just sit there, and say, oh, what? And you make some weird sound effect, and you go, it's like, oh, wow, that's amazing. It's like, okay, maybe that's what I should do. Because my daughter showed me all these TikToks, and I'm like, maybe I'm too old because I'm in my 50s. I'm just like, what is that supposed to mean? I was like, I don't understand it. Why are you watching that? And like, I don't get it. So it's like maybe I need to watch it more so I can understand it.
Yeah. Actually, I like TikTok videos. Like they are funny for me too.
Yeah, they're funny. I mean, that's why I didn't really get it. And then I said, oh, it's like Saturday Night Live. It's like it's comedy. I didn't initially I didn't get it. I was like, what is this? And I said, oh, now I get it. It's trying to be funny. It's okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But thank you for being on the show, Christoph. I think it's really cool. And if you've got another project coming down the pike, if you've got an EP or albums or anything, we like to have people come on the show multiple times. We have a guest. Last year we had all these guests that were on our audio show, and now we're bringing them on the video show. So, like I said, the next thing is we want to do something and you want to actually perform like for 20 minutes or something, you want to show a new song, you want to do something like that, let us know. We could, you could be the first one to try that idea out.
Cool.
And it's like when you're ready to do something like that, let us know and we could set something up. And we'll test it out and check it, make sure it's cool, and then we'll do it.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to say thank you to too, because it's really great and a very big honor for me to be able to give an interview to you, and it was fun. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Chris. We love talking to musicians. That's what we like. The reason we're a musician is because we like music, right? And so we listen to other musicians. That's kind of we're the first thing we are is like a fan. And then the next thing, we're getting into music, our own stuff. But I think it's really cool in this time to be able to reach out to people across the world and have an audience hear, what your music is about. So I encourage everybody to look at the links. This is going to be permanently on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. Look at the links we have here. Go to the artist sites and support the artists you like by listening to the music, playlisting their music, put them on your own playlist, put them out to your friends. That's how we get things going in the music world. So engage with the artists you like. Thank you very much for being on the show again, Christoph.
Thank you too. Have a nice day.
You too.